You're listening to Spainfully Honest, the podcast where me, Paul,
and me, Catherine, talk about what it's really like living in Spain.
each week we'll share stories, tips, and honest conversations about daily life here in Spain.
Whether you live in Spain, you're thinking about moving, or you just want to know a little bit more, you're in the right place.
So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's get Spainfully Honest.
Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of Spainfully Honest. I can't believe 5 episodes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, so proud of us. And first of all, again, I just want to thank everyone so much for listening, for sending us comments, for sending us emails.
From all over the world, all over the world. We're not just talking from Burnley here, we're talking all over the world. What's wrong with Burnley, by the way?
Yeah, United States, everything. We're
Texas.
delighted, yeah, absolutely delighted with the feedback we've been getting. It's brilliant. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your reviews. We've been getting 5-star reviews on Spotify.
5 stars.
Yeah. So yeah, and keep listening on YouTube.
Not really 5-star me, I'm more 4-star. And 5-star a bit difficult.
We're also on Amazon Music now as well. So you can
Music.
listen
So you
there.
can rap while you're listening.
So yeah, brilliant. So how's your week been, Paul?
Well, since the kids went, well, they didn't go, well, since the kids were on Tuesday, sort of gone downhill a lot. Really. I've had a really bad week.
Oh no way.
I had man flu. I mean, if the men out there, you'll know how bad man flu is. And this was a bad man flu.
Oh no.
Terrible. But there was a positive side to the man flu.
What?
I am now down to 115 kilos. Mainly because of the man flu. The only negative of that is, the positive first is, I managed to fit into the suit.
Yay!
Yes, ready for this week. It's this week, as we talk. So this is probably a few weeks back, but it's this week. 115.2 kilos. So that's
Really?
6 kilos in however many weeks, 3 weeks. The negative is starting to look more like a turkey. So although I managed to fit into the suit, so some must have gone off my waist. And so most of it's gone off my face, so I've got this like turkey neck.
You have to like
See, so I have to sit on a bit more like Catherine.
Yeah,
I don't mean
tuck yourself behind here.
Catherine's got a turkey neck. What I mean is sitting behind the this thing, the splatter guard. I'm having to suck holes. So there's a bit of sponsorship here. Holes. I'm having to suck one of these as I talk. So I'll apologise for that in case I spit at you. I won't spit at you.
We'll try and not
spit
make
at
today's podcast as long as previous podcasts, so Paul doesn't have to talk for so long.
Yeah, because they've been a bit long. We've had to cut them in half and all sorts. But anyway, no, I've got itchy ears as well. So, and if anybody wants to know about this fantastic diet other than the man flu, send us a message to hello@spainfullyhonest.com and I'll send you my dietary suggestions.
Brilliant.
So we had the kids on last week, and we talked about it afterwards. And one of the sort of main things to come out of that one was that language is so important.
So important.
And so we wanted to do a full episode on potential for learning a language and how important it is when you're over here. And it's not something to put pressure on anybody. It's just we both feel that you will have such a much better life here and get more from it if you can speak the language a little bit.
Yeah, like with some feedback that we've been getting from people who've been listening to the podcast is that they feel bad about their level of Spanish after listening to us talk. So I feel a bit bad now.
Well, the thing with that is, I haven't spoken any Spanish, so you won't feel that bad. Once you've heard that, you'd feel less bad than you do now. Because my Spanish is not fantastic, but it's all right. And one thing I'm not nervous about trying to speak it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's really important.
It's half the battle, yeah. So I just wanted to point out before we do start going through this this podcast about the language and kind of trying to help you learn and promote different ways that you can learn and everything, if we're not trying to shame anyone who hasn't managed to learn the language or who are finding it difficult to learn the language, because if you come over here and you're not working, it is hard. If you're not working and you're retired, it's hard to speak enough Spanish every day to get up to a super high level. So it is more difficult, don't you think? It's more difficult for people when they're not working. You really have to put yourself out there to try and make yourself speak. If you come across to work, you have to speak. You can't ignore your customers. We're going to really dive deep on learning Spanish. We're going to try our best to do it in order. And we're going to try and do So what you need to learn before you move to Spain, and then once you've arrived at the start, then we've been here a little while and so on. And then we'll also try and discuss each topic separately as well, as far as the language you might have to learn for working here, and how to learn as a retired person, how to learn if you're coming with kids, etc. So we'll try and break it down and do it that way.
Yeah, and different things that we've done. I mean, it's a little bit different for you. I'm probably more sort of, what's the word? Yeah, I've sort of had to do it because I'm here. Catherine sort of knew a little bit before you came. I think, and then
it was a bit of working.
So it's different. So, the different things that I've done, we'll talk about those.
Yeah.
And the other things that are possible, all the different ways you can have a go at learning.
Yeah. And we always recommend that you do learn a little bit before you come away. That little base that you learn before you move is important. Although you'll feel like you've learned absolutely nothing, when you move across, when people start to speak, the base does help. I mean, I studied Spanish for 6 years in school, and then I did it in university as well. And then my university sent me across to the University in Madrid to continue my course in that university. And I thought, I'll be honest, I was a bit cocky. I thought that I was fluent. I thought I was amazing in Spanish when I came across to Spain. And I was a bit surprised when my teacher in Ireland, she said to me, when you first get to Spain, just make sure, write down everything you understand. I was like, write down everything you understand? I'm going to be writing everything. And I'll never forget, we went into that first class in Spanish in University in Madrid, and I went over with another classmate from Ireland. And it was like a movie. The teacher started speaking, and then the classmates started to answer the teacher back. And we just looked at each other, and our mouths were like both open. And I said, are they speaking Spanish? I hadn't got a clue what they were saying. Hadn't a clue. So you'll get your base, you'll learn your base in Spanish if you can before you move away. You do on Duolingo or anything, or online courses and things like that. But then once you're here, you'll feel like that wasn't worth anything. But it does. It's in your brain, and it does help you then learn when you come over to Spain.
Yeah, I suppose it's important as well, if you can, to try and find an online course that's in the Spanish where you are.
Yeah.
So if you're in Barcelona, you have to have a different title.
Well, they speak Catalan in Barcelona.
Yeah,
so sometimes
check that out.
Yeah, some people feel like, not pressure, but they feel like they should learn Catalan as well as Castellano, the Spanish that is generally spoken in Spain. Yes, it's really difficult because Catalan is quite different. But anyway, yeah, I mean, if you learn Spanish, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah, there are different accents. And there are actually, speaking of which, you can go onto these online platforms where you can practice with native Spanish people. I wrote them down. They're called Tandem and Hello Talk. And you can go on and you can speak with native Spanish speakers online before you move across. It's really good.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah, and you can learn through books before you come across, and there's lots of different things that you can do before you move over to Spain. And we discussed last week about how listening to the TV and watching some series just to get your ear a little bit used to it before you move across to Spain.
Yeah, good idea. When you get here, obviously it's different. You've got a lot more opportunity there to start to learn it in different ways, haven't you? My sort of first formal, sort of semi-formal education into Spanish was going to a conversation group. Yeah. And there are a lot of those everywhere. If you go to Facebook usually and just ask if there's a conversation group in the area that you're going to, or if you're going to try and book it before you go, but when you are there, if you do it that way. And the other thing as well is, if you're going to, in most sort of towns, there's like a community centre, which usually has the health centre incorporated in it, and sort of a little bit of a town hall where you can do administrative things for the local area. And in there, usually there's sort of like a meeting room with a bar where people go. A lot of times there'll be a notice board in there, and it could well be some conversation classes, listed in there. Spanish, English, and English, Spanish. The one I went to was it was called Conversation Swap, and it was in this area. I didn't really realise when I went that it was mainly aimed at Spanish people to learn English rather than English people to learn Spanish. And so I was quite popular because they wanted to practice every all the time. So I probably didn't learn as much in that as I could have done. You know, it was the wrong course, not the wrong thing to do. I just hadn't picked the right course. But I met some really nice people.
Yeah.
You know, and then sort of we get, it'd be 6 o'clock at night, it'd be an hour, you'd get there at 5:45 and you'd sit trying to talk to people, and they'd be practising their English on you, and then when it finished you'd have another drink. So it was like 2 hours, but I met several people, and some of them became friends, you know,
Yeah.
right at the beginning.
And that's the great thing about doing those things. It's like it's half about learning the language, and it's also then the other half is about making friends when you first come over to Spain as well. And they're great groups for that, and everyone's in the same place in those groups as well. Because the difficult thing can be when you're trying to speak Spanish to a Spanish person. Of course, their Spanish is great, and you feel awful. But when you're somewhere like that, where everyone's trying to learn the language, even if you're with Spanish people who are trying to learn English, they feel vulnerable because their English is maybe not great. You feel vulnerable because your Spanish is not great. But everyone's kind of in the same situation, so they're really good things. They're a good, great idea.
And it's important with those is try and make sure that it's a beginner's class.
Yeah.
You don't want to be going into what is effectively the third year of a course that everybody else has been on, and you turn up and because one, you won't learn as much because it's too advanced for you, but also they won't appreciate being there either because they're at a different level to you. So
holding them back, essentially.
Make sure it's a beginner's one if you're a beginner. You know, if you're not a beginner, that's fine.
Yeah, and some of it is just, some of them are maybe might not even have levels. It's just people sitting around having a chat, and it doesn't matter what your level is. Some people say, oh, it doesn't matter what your level is, just come. But some will have a level, so that is a good thing to check. Yeah.
Some of them run sort of continuously. This one that I went to was sort of continuous, but others will have a start date, and they might be for 8 weeks or something.
Yeah.
So that's a good time to go at the beginning, from a point of view that virtually everybody there will be hopefully at the same level.
Yeah. And if you're really conscious about your Spanish and you really want to start, there are intensive courses that you can do, like immersion courses, where you go and you're obliged to speak the language. You know, they don't let you speak any other language. You know, in Ireland, you'll know that, like, we used to go to places called the Whale Talks in Ireland, and you have to speak Irish when you go there. It's like, so it's a similar thing when you come across to Spain. You can do something similar to that, and you have to speak Spanish no matter what. Like,
one came up on my Facebook yesterday, which is and it's got the best name ever. So I haven't been on it or anything. I just saw it and it looked really interesting. They were called Aloha Vera, which I thought was brilliant. What a great name! And that's immersion, where you literally go and stay there for a few days, and it's immersing you in Spanish.
Yeah.
So that's Aloha Vera. Have a look.
So cute. And they're usually nice places, you know, and have everything included, like a holiday as well, where you learn Spanish.
I was saying about that you have Spanish food and all that sort of thing. So no, really, really interesting.
Oh, cute. So it's like an immersive culture, not just the language.
Yeah.
I like it.
We can't recommend it because we've not been on it, but it just looks. Have a look into it.
Very cute.
Yeah. I mean, the other places where you might find about classes is there are quite a few in most areas, quite a few language schools that are aimed at Spanish school children learning English. But if you went in there and said, do they know any, I'm sure they would. I'm sure they know places. And like I say, the community centre, but also put it into Facebook, wherever you're going to, put it into the Facebook group and say, are there any conversation, any Spanish conversation groups anywhere?
And even if there aren't one, because you'll always find people interested, you could just set one up. When I worked in, I said before, in Pinetar Arena, the football centre here, I came across a lot of people who were trying to learn the language, and it was both ways. A lot of Spanish people kept asking me if I could practice with them in English, and then there was a lot of English-speaking people who lived in the area wanted to practice Spanish. So I just said, well, let's all come along to the cafeteria at 7 o'clock. I called it Spanglish, pulled up a little poster, and loads of people came. So I mean, even if one doesn't exist in your town, feel free to create one, and make loads of friends that way as well.
Yeah.
And
getting them, doing formal learning is one thing, but we can't say this enough. Practicing and just sitting down in a group of people and trying to have a conversation and making it work between you.
Yeah.
That's where you learn stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We said on the previous episode, but it's worth repeating that there's a rhythm to speaking a new language, because you have to talk and then listen to what the other person is saying, trying to understand what they're saying while thinking about what you're going to say back. You're trying to plan what your reply is going to be and how to say it and what word to choose, and you have to do all of that at once. So that's important to practice that. It's difficult.
one thing that I'm sort of very experienced in, when I was little, 7, I had a blunt force trauma to the brain, and it's given me a really bad memory. So not just in a foreign language, but in anything, in meetings in the UK, I have to concentrate on what I'm going to say next, not on what the person's saying, and it's really hard. It makes learning language hard because I'm trying to think of what I need to say while they're talking to me, so I'm not listening to them. So I sound really ignorant. I do that a lot. I talk over people, and people take umbrage sometimes. But it's not. It's just a horrendous short-term memory. And I think about somebody will say something, and I think a really good thing about it, but I need to say it straight away because if I don't, I'll forget it.
Just forget it. Well, I'll keep that in mind. After you've been here for a while, then of course there are other things to do because you'll have a bit of Spanish then. So you can actually join clubs and you can join maybe different organisations. And once you have a level where you can start speaking to people, because they probably expect you to be able to speak, if you join a club, you have to be able to communicate with people. So whether it's I don't know what kind of club it could be, like a running club or any kind of club, arts and crafts club or whatever, but you'll have to be able to then say, pass me the wool or braces or something. So we can join some clubs and different things like that, and it's a really great way if you're retired here as well to again keep yourself active, create a community, and that's half what the language does as well, isn't it? It helps you create that community here in Spain as well.
Yeah, I mean, I joined the paddle club, and I think, to be honest, you could get away without having to speak much in that because it was very descriptive. It was very descriptive. They showed you what you needed to do. But the most important thing again was the people you meet. There were 20 people being taught how to play paddle, and then just 20 more people. And then after, you'd be absolutely knackered because you'd played 3 hours, but you'd sit down at the bar and have a beer or have a water, depending on how healthy you were. But you sat there when you're talking to people.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it probably wouldn't be the learning of the thing, but it's those chats that you have in between that really help the language as well. Yeah.
And just mixing with the Spanish people, people that speak Spanish. I mean, to be honest, that group, there are a lot of Dutch people, and a lot of Dutch people speak English, so you talk a little bit of English. But when they didn't speak English, the common language would then be Spanish.
Yeah.
So, you're talking Spanish indirectly because you might not know a lot, but your numbers, dates and things like that. So you can, are you coming next Tuesday? You can work that out, and you start talking Spanish. But you're practicing, aren't you?
Yeah, and the good thing about that is they're maybe not as good as a Spanish person, so they make you feel more comfortable then about speaking the language yourself. When you're not speaking to a Spanish person. Yeah.
Well, I said it at the beginning, saying it again. The most important thing is just don't, be confident. Just try and talk it, try your best. Don't think the answer has to be perfect before I'm going to say anything, because you'll end up not saying anything because, you'll get it slightly wrong. And if you're not going to say it just because you're going to get it slightly wrong, you'll be second right. Just try it.
Yeah. And it is hard. I do appreciate the fact that some people are shy. Like I'm shy, I was when I first started. And it is hard. So you have to really make yourself do it, because it is so easy to just, speak English and not try, and you can get away with it. Like you can get away with it. Like a lot of people do get away with it. So you really do have to make yourself speak and make yourself be a little bit more confident with it, because it is difficult if you are shy to make yourself be someone you're not. It's hard. But it's worth it in the end.
Oh, definitely worth it. The benefits are massive. We'll talk about more of this later on, but the benefits are massive. And it's not, you're not just coming here for the weather. You're coming here for a lot of other things, and all the other benefits, with the exception of the weather, you probably need to talk about, or need to talk to somebody about. So, feel free.
And then if you are a bit thinking about putting yourself out there and talking, there are things you can do to give yourself even more confidence. But when you're at home, things you can do to practice at home. Like we touched on it in a previous episode, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth in it today. And that was to watch Spanish TV programs, or even a TV program that you've watched already, rewatch it in Spanish with the subtitles on. And depending on your level, you can do different subtitles. So obviously, if you start watching a Spanish TV program and your level is not that high, you're going to want to put English subtitles on because you want to understand what the program is. But after a while, you can also switch then, if your Spanish is okay, you can switch those subtitles to Spanish. So if you're able to read the Spanish, then it helps you understand what they're saying. You see the word at the same time, so that's it. So you'll know yourself when you need to switch from the English subtitles to Spanish subtitles. So it's called like active watching, So it's not just about sitting back and relaxing and watching the TV program. It's a form of study. It's a form of learning the language. So you need to, if you come to a word that you don't understand, just pause it and look up the word. Keep a notebook handy and make a little note of the words that you learn. And then, like, when you're out and about, try and use them if you've learned a new word, depending on the word, of course, in order what you're watching.
Yeah. And what kind of dictionary you got?
Yeah. You look up the word and then practice it when you're out and about. My Spanish teacher always said to me when I was learning in school that until you've used a word 3 times, it doesn't go into your brain. So not about learning it or repeating it, but using the word in a sentence. She always said to me, once you've used the word 3 times in a sentence, you'll know that word. I don't know if that was like a lie she just said, so I would learn. But my Spanish teacher in secondary school said that to me, so it's important, so watch something at home and think, oh, that's a new word. I'll see where I can put that into practice now in my day-to-day life, Yeah. So it's good. And then also if you're watching with someone, you can pause, you can practice pronouncing those words with each other, and of course understanding. So if you're listening to it, you're
it might be better starting in like kids programs, really, just because they're potentially a little bit slower, rather than some drug thriller, which might be a little bit complicated, a lot of swearing and very fast. But kids programs to start off with.
Definitely. And something I always recommend as well is rewatching something that you watch. And people love rewatching. I love rewatching things. Like I rewatch the Gilmore Girls like almost every year when it gets into the winter time. So that would be something, if you like rewatching things like I do, then you can rewatch your favorite program but in Spanish. So you'll know the storyline already. So you'll know what's happened. So you don't need to kind of concentrate so much on, I don't understand what's happening. You'll know what's happened, so that way you can just concentrate on the language of it, So that's a really good thing to do, a really good tip.
There's some great things on Spanish television. I watched one called Wrong Side of the Tracks, which is absolutely brilliant. It's a great program. I think it's 3 series and it's superb, absolutely superb. Everybody has said, watch this, and they have done. It's absolutely brilliant. So,
There's one that was huge. It was Casa de Papel. So I think it was called Money Heist in English. It's on Netflix, and it's a Spanish-made program. So obviously, if you've watched it already, because it was huge in all countries, but you could just watch that in the original version, and it would just be Spanish, of course. So you don't have to watch the dubbed version, which I hate watching dubbed stuff. But yeah, so there's loads of stuff, and there's a new one out. Well, it's not fantastic, but if you're into the royals and that kind of thing, they've just released a brand new. I'm sure it's on Netflix. About the King and Queen of Spain and how they fell in love and their love story. I think it's called Felipe y Leticia, because that's the names, Felipe and Leticia. Yeah, I had a little quick look at it, but it's very like what would you say, soapy kind of telenovela kind of a style, that kind of vibe. But some people love the royals and they love all that kind of stuff. And I listened to it to see what the Spanish was like. It's really clear and they speak quite slow, so it'd actually be a really good starter program to watch.
There you can learn all about the love life of the king.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's funny.
One of the things when we're talking about the sort of shyness part of it is that what you could do is you could get a private tutor.
Yeah.
So a private tutor would obviously allow you to do it as a one-to-one, or perhaps, or if you move over and you make friends quite quickly and they want to learn as well, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, or whatever, reduce the cost. Well, that would be a way to sort of learn some Spanish before you go out into the wide world. But again, my recommendation with that is, great, get a private tutor, but don't not go out into the wild world. Go out faster. Whatever you learn that week, speak to them about what you're doing and what your hobbies are and what you'd like to do and where you'd like to go, and make your classes based on those things. So, first week you might talk about shopping, and then that week go out and practice what you've done with the tutor. Don't just make it so that it's a written exercise and you're writing it and learning stuff. Get it so that it is conversational Spanish. No, you're not doing an exam. Well, you might do an exam. You're not doing your A levels.
Yeah.
Get it so that you make it relevant, at least to start off with, I think. And then you'll use it more. If you go, you hear loads of people saying the verb tables are so important. I'm sure they are. But, you know, when a 2-year-old child is learning English, they don't sit down and do the verb tables. They get told what a plant is, told what a toy is, told what a drink is, you know, and they learn that way. Learn it that way, at least initially, so that you can go out and sit in a bar and ask for it in Spanish. You don't have to have a full verb table to ask for a beer. But...
No, and you can learn just the important verb first, because that allows you then to form a sentence. You know, like I want. You know, you wouldn't be able to say I want a beer without having a verb in there. It would just be you saying
beer.
A beer.
You're right.
Well, you could say a beer,
for
please.
22 years, and it's not right.
You could say beer, please. That's fine. But you know, the sentence would be I want a beer. You know, I would like, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
So
that's all I mean. I'm probably lessening the importance of verbs. I don't mean to do that. I just mean when you've got with a tutor, tell them the things you want to do and what you'd like to do, and you know, and then so that they will know how to help you most. You know, how to help you best.
No, it does make sense, because you can say like, well, I want to be able to go to the supermarket and be able to just chat with the
make it subject,
the
and then you can think about what you do next week, what else you want to do, and things like that. And it makes life easier for them probably, because they'll know you better, but they'll be able to help you more.
Yeah.
And like I say, you know, you can have just one person, not one-to-one, but also speak about get a few friends together and try and do a few people.
Yeah.
Just make sure that everybody's on the same level. Because for the tutor that makes it a lot more straightforward.
Yeah.
You know, people at different levels, and also for obviously the person that's at a considerably higher level, it's not going to be as good for them if everybody else is not.
Yeah, definitely. And then moving on from just general learning, if you're coming to Spain to work, then there is sometimes you need to learn specific industry language, like you might need to know specific words. If you're going to work in the airport, if you're going to work in a restaurant, or whatever you're going to work, you might need to learn the particular vocabulary that you're going to use there. So it's a good idea to do that. And then we had some emails through.
It is. Not just local.
No, from all over the world. But one of them was a fantastic email actually, and it was from someone who's has gone back and forth really, has lived here and then has gone back and then has come back to Spain. And he was talking about how to network and how to meet the right people when you're here for work, because of course there's a lot of people here who are maybe retired or people who are here on holidays, and if you're here to work or to set up a business or to be a freelancer, well, you're going to want to network with the right people. And one thing that he said is to go the place, I made a little note, he said to go the places where those type of people are going to be. So whether it be luxury gyms, co-working spots, beach clubs, he said professionals go there, and they're really good places, not only to learn the language, but also to network with different people who are working here, setting up business here, digital nomads here in Spain as well. That's a really good tip. I had never thought of that before, but that was a really good tip.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not something that you'd normally think of, I don't think.
No, I had never thought of that before. I didn't. Yeah, I thought, oh, that's a really good idea. That's a really good tip. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, if you come in here and you're like me, retired, then obviously you won't have the opportunity to meet people at work. So you need to sort of decide what your social life's going to be, what you enjoy doing, and then apply the Spanish to that. So if you're going, twice a week you want to go out for a drink, particularly in winter, go to the local bars on the back streets. Where the Spanish people, it'll be quieter, the people will have more time for you, and go and practice some Spanish in the bar. And I think you'll find, in a lot of cases, the people that work there, they'll definitely appreciate you going in winter, and if you make it a regular thing, you literally become a regular. But also, and ask them questions about drink. Ask them about coffee. How do they make all the thousands of different types of coffees? I mean, I'm sure there is in the UK, but when I left the UK, you could get a black coffee, a white coffee, and that was about it. Now you can get 300 different kinds of all sorts of coloured coffees with all sorts of things in them. Well, the same in Spain. Spain has these unique coffees. Just sit and talk to them, ask them how they make each type of coffee, and if you buy one, they're going to love you, aren't they?
Yeah, and depending on each region of Spain, you've got different coffees they're,
Yeah.
north and south is totally different. So yeah, definitely.
Beer sizes, tapas, talk about tapas, but just little things like that. If you just point at something and ask them what it is, and then do you understand what, it's obvious that it's potatoes with garlic because you can see that it is. Ask them what it is, they'll say patatas con alioli. You then know that potatoes with garlic is patatas con alioli.
And sometimes you get surprised, sometimes it's not exactly what it looks like.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you might think it's something and it's something totally different. Yeah, well, I've done that before. But also, rather than just going to Carrefour or working on a few shopping, go to the street market.
Yeah.
And you've learnt the veg that week before you've gone. You've got a shopping list. You've decided, so you get your dictionary out and work out what every little thing is, and then go and use it. Go and ask for that thing.
Yeah.
And then when you get told it's called something different, it may be just a version that's different.
Yeah.
Here, there's loads of different types of peppers. And I always think of them as just being peppers, but there's loads of different types. So you'll learn something from that.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, go to the Spanish market. Don't go to the sort of kiss me quick hat market that's on the seafront. You're not going to learn a lot there. But if you go to the street market that's one day a week, one morning a week or whatever, you'll learn so much more. Definitely.
Yeah. Every town in Spain has a weekly market, every single one. And even, we live in San Pedro de Pinatar, so they've got one in San Pedro, but then the beach town of San Pedro is Lopalan. They also have a weekly market, so there's effectively two in San Pedro. And there's lots and they fall on different days of the week as well. So yeah, you can check them out on usually the local town hall social media pages will tell you when the market is going to be on. We usually put up reminders every week or every so often, and they'll tell you when the market is going to be on.
So they're great places to go. And again, full of locals.
Yeah.
So you'll see a bit of chicken there.
I don't eat anymore. I used to love those chickens in the market.
And again, in most places, in this area, but also in other areas, there'll be cities that are not touristy or not as touristy. Well, go to those. That's where, again, you'll learn so much more. Don't be scared to go. The number of people who said to me, I don't go to Mercy because they don't speak English.
Oh my God.
I'm missing so much. Sorry. Mercy's a fantastic city, but it's not true now what they've just said. They're not going to Mercy because they don't speak Spanish. You're just missing so much in your life by not going to these inland cities and these inland towns.
When I first went to Madrid, there wasn't a lot of English spoken. When I first went to Madrid, it was, for me it was fine because I had studied a bit and I was able to get by and improve, of course, because you were obliged to learn. But my mum and dad came and visited me when I lived in Madrid a few times. My mum and dad said sometimes even when they went to the restaurants, there was translations of what it was even on the menu. I mean, it's different now. And my mum ordered a pizza and she just said, I'll just have the chef special. And they came out and they had a huge fried egg in the middle of the pizza. And she was like, what's this? But it's changed a little bit now. But Madrid was always, it was very Spanish, very Spanish. So yeah, it's great to go to those places because then you have to push yourself to speak the language.
We talked last week about, obviously, kids learning Spanish, and if they go to school, whichever school they go to, they will learn some Spanish, so that's fine. But and I've sort of I've given one opinion of this, but I've got another opinion as well. That the school told me I shouldn't speak Spanish to my children because they'll be better than me, and I shouldn't spoil their Spanish. But there is an element that for them and you, make their learning of Spanish a bit of fun.
Yeah.
When they come home from school, talk to them about it, ask them about it. Don't try and influence what they say, because you don't know how they've been taught it. But, join in. If they're learning numbers, learn numbers with them. If they're learning objects, learn objects with them. And you're learning, they're learning, and it'll get to a point where they start to enjoy it because they're actually teaching you.
Yeah.
It's the first time probably in their lives that they're telling you how to do something rather than you telling them. So, use that. It's going to be good for them for practicing, but also good for you for learning, So, do that. And they can, they can have a tutor. They can go to classes as well if they need to learn it. The same as you may do.
Yeah.
It may not be the same person, but that's something to consider whether they need a tutor because they've only just arrived.
Yeah. And they can also do bits and bobs before they come across as well. There's a little app like Duolingo called Lingo Kids, and it's for kids learning languages, so they can do that before they come across as well. They can, as we said before, they can watch cartoons, maybe some songs and things like that on YouTube in Spanish, so they get their ear used to it before they move across to Spain. And yeah, like Paul was saying, like you're moving across all together, so you're all learning a new language together. So to make it fun to explore together when you're in the supermarket, just try and think of what word is it for lettuce or what word is it for whatever. Like just to make it fun and learn the language for the kids and learning.
I mean, I think depending on their age, I think quite a few kids now will have done a bit of Spanish in the UK before they came here, which is for me that's totally new. We didn't do Spanish. We did firstly French and then you did German if you did the language. So that's good.
Yeah.
But again, for them, practicing is so important, and making sure this was one of the main things of last week's part about from the kids was getting Spanish friends.
Yeah.
So they can't go to a bar and sit there and order a pint and talk about tapas. Well, they probably could actually, but their socialising is going to be with other kids. So make sure they have some other kids that are Spanish.
Yeah. So you can arrange some play dates. You can, but there's always loads of birthday parties. So we did have another email from another person, and she was talking about how to meet other families when you come across. And it's a big question actually, because you want to meet the parents of the other kids, and you really don't need to worry about it too much because all the kids have birthday parties. And there's like a birthday party every week. You'll be sick of the birthday parties, and they'll go to these the play centres. Ballparks, whatever you want to call them, and then all the parents are sat together in the the cafeteria area. So that's a great way to meet all the parents as well. And then you'll end up sitting around speaking Spanish and everything like that as well.
So there's loads. There are loads of ways to learn Spanish, and none of them are correct, and none of them are wrong. It's just it's your personality, your situation. Your family life, whether you're sociable, whether you're not sociable, nobody can tell you what to do. Yeah. We just try to give you some examples of different ways of doing it. Yeah. But again, stressing that just don't be shy. Don't worry about it. That'll be a biggest obstacle. I have a saying, and it's probably a bit cheesy really, but better to have spoken and laughed than never have spoken at all.
Oh, definitely.
Try to repeat it. No. But, and I've made some proper mistakes, I can assure you. I'll give you 2 mistakes here, right? The first one, so I moved over a month before my wife and daughters came over. The idea of that month was to get some things established, find where the doctors was, find which school my daughter would go to. So she was just coming up to 3. She was 35 months when we moved here, so she would have been starting school in the September after that. So she would have been like 3.5 when she started school. So I went down to the village and I found where the local school was. And my wife had given me the questions that I had to ask, so I had to get them on there. This was like before we didn't have internet at the time, so it was like finding it in a dictionary and trying to work it out. And my first question was, I have a daughter who is 2 years old who would like to come to your school. Now, I misinterpreted the word for years. And you have to be very careful with the word for years and for anus. Because años is years and anos, is that the right word? Yeah. And anos is anus. So I actually said to the teacher, I have a daughter with 2 anuses and she would like to come to your school. And the reaction from the teacher was, oh. And I was a bit puzzled by the reaction, but obviously I couldn't, she was then talking to me in Spanish, thinking that I was fluent, obviously, because I just said that. And she was saying about the doctor, and it wasn't effectively, it wasn't a problem. And she called some of the teachers in to sort of go, oh. Feeling sorry for me. I was like, what is the problem? Anyway, so that was it. So I left. So yeah, they thought she had 2 anuses. But she didn't. So she was alright at school. And the second one was this was a bit more experience. So I set up a furniture business with my partner, business partner, and we went to a furniture show in Valencia, and we went on a stand, and we were looking for bedside tables. And I saw this really nice bedside table, but it only had one drawer at the top, and I wanted it to be a very narrow, but 3 drawers, because here there was not much space in some of the bedrooms, so a narrow bedside. And so I said, please could I have that bedside table with 3 testicles? Which they all fell about laughing, even my business partner. Because I'd gone like sort of wanting to be, I wanted to use my Spanish in these places and walk on and look like, this is important, I'm going to buy like 20 of them, thinking it was like impressive, And I asked for a bedside with 3 testicles because cajones and cajons, one is testicles and one is drawers. So, so you can make mistakes. And everybody laughed, and I had no idea what they were laughing at. But anyway, so, don't worry about it, just make mistakes.
So there are common ones that people always get confused or make mistakes with, but both ways. So molestar is to annoy, but people then think they're saying molestar, so that. And
I've got another one in a minute.
And then you've got constipada. People think that's constipated, but it's actually to have a cold or to have a blocked up nose. Constipada. So people make that mistake a lot. And then the big one is embarazada.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That is the one. And I've done that several times. I don't mean I've done that.
It means pregnant, but people think it means embarrassed because it sounds so similar to embarrassed, but it means pregnant. So a lot of people will say they're pregnant instead of saying they're embarrassed. So there are some things.
Yeah, so that is an important one. Yeah. I'm very pregnant. I'm very, very, very pregnant. I'm so sorry, I'm very pregnant.
I know what it's like. I know it back the other way as well. So when you have kids here and they start learning Spanish, and then at some point they're, some Spanish, they have some Spanish vocabulary more than English. They go back and forth, as they grow up. And one great one is then when they want to say you're annoying me, they literally translate it from molestar to say stop molesting me,
Be careful.
And then my son does this thing where, and I think it's really funny because we always get, foreign people always get slagged off for saying, the only thing you need to do to make a Spanish word is to add an O or an A onto the end.
Daniel used to do that all the time.
So you just stick an O on or an A at the end of any word and then make it Spanish. But my son does the same thing, but the other way around. So he just takes the O or the A off to make it sound English.
Right.
So he says mallet for suitcase because it's maleta in Spanish. So he says, get me mallet. I'm like, mallet? And it says maleta, it's a suitcase. Or then what's the other one he does? Oh, the one he says a lot is, so he says, put the tap on, will you? But he means lid, so the lid of something, so it's a tapa in Spanish.
Yeah,
so he just takes the A off and he says, tap that, will you? Like, I'm like, what?
It's great. All these things you've got to look forward to.
It's so funny. And then one of the other things I wanted to say is from that is not to be put off as well, because you can go out there, like Paul said, and you can think, right, I'm going to be confident, I'm going to have a conversation, and then you might just have the conversation with the wrong person, because let's face it, not everyone's very nice in this world. Like, you could try and speak your Spanish with a Spanish person who's not a nice person, and it might put you off, it can put you off.
They might have just had a bad day.
They might have just
really
had a bad day. I knew this person, so she was actually my friend. But, but yeah, maybe she had a bad day, but I had a brilliant example. It winds me up to this day, like it's still annoying me.
Still winds her up. After how long?
24 years.
24 years. She don't let things do.
No, this is very annoying. I'm going to tell you.
Right, I should
so
have told you.
I was in Madrid studying, as I said now, a gazillion times. But I was sharing an apartment, but the lady lived in the apartment, who owned the apartment, and then she rented out the rooms in it to students. So it was a big apartment, it was really nice. And I came home after I'd been away, and she said to me in Spanish, of course, the whole thing was in Spanish, where were you? And I said, Malaga. And she was like, looking at me really confused, and I was like, Malaga. And I started to get nervous then, I was like, Malaga. And then she was still looking at me like I had two heads. And anyway, this went on for a little while, and then after a while she went, Malaga. And I was like, that's exactly what I've been saying for the last 10 minutes. This is exactly what I've been saying. It's because there's an accent on the first A in Malaga.
No.
So that means you have to put more pronunciation on the first A, so it should be Malaga rather than Malaga. So
I could see where she was. I was a bit confused when you said it, to be honest.
She was doing that on purpose. She was pretending she didn't understand me. It's not me. That's like if I came across a Spanish person who said they were in Dublin, I would know they've been in Dublin. You know, but I wouldn't go, where? You know, where have you been? So sometimes that will happen. I still remember, obviously it still annoys me all these years later. So don't let people like that put you off. Just brush past it and just keep going with your Spanish. You know, just think that you're speaking a second language. So that like it's.
I had the same with Sprite in the local village. I said it like, what was on Sprite? Okay.
So annoying.
Sprite. Okay. Oh, bright. They don't say the S. Yeah, so even had a big S on the front of it, it's bright. It's bright. Yeah.
So cute.
Not quite as same as yours, but
it's annoying though, isn't it? Because you know they know what you're saying. You know, some people know, and they just try to make it a little more difficult for you. So you just have to ignore those people. There's not very many of them. In fairness, most people will just be delighted that you're speaking Spanish and help you.
they'll be the same in your own language, wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's just not nice people.
If you say something slightly different, it's because of an accent, they won't agree with it.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that. 100%. Don't.
Well, yeah. So I think we wrap up a little bit talking about the benefits of the speaking of the language, and we've kind of said it all the way through, but it's just a fantastic way to integrate, make friends, and get to know the community a little bit, and just understand Spanish people a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, they do in a lot of the villages in particular, but also in the bigger towns, but it's more sort of personal in the villages. They'll do what's usually called an international day. So they'll have like a 2-week fiesta. And one of those days they'll make an international day, and the idea is they'll put perhaps a British act on, and they'll put some Union Jacks up and things like that. But that's great. But wouldn't it be better if you could also be more involved in the other 13 days?
Yeah.
You know, rather than it being isolated to one day that the international people all enjoy. You know, if you can speak a bit more a language, you can enjoy the other 13 days as well.
I really enjoy it. In some places they do like an English breakfast. And then on this day, the local councillors have to go along. And so they always get pictured with course, and they're like looking at the beans and stuff, and they're kind of like, what are you making me eat?
They don't care, are they?
I love those pictures. I look forward to those pictures every year.
Yeah, no, that's great. And a pint of bitter. Oh, no. I think I'm trying to poison them.
They like Guinness though.
Oh, yeah.
They love Guinness.
Who doesn't? That's Guinness, don't they?
They don't get Guinness with the breakfast though, unfortunately. Okay, and then just a reminder that we have lots of experts and guests coming onto the show in the next couple of weeks. So feel free to send us your questions to hello@spainfullyhonest.com. And we have people coming on from talk about properties, like rural properties, properties in the city, coastal properties. We've also got someone from a private school coming on who's going to talk about education again, but in a more formal way, you know, rather than just your kids talking about it. So yeah, we have lots of people coming on. So send their questions in, send your stories in, suggestions in, anything, things that you would like us to ask them. If you send them in quick enough, we can do that as well. Yeah.
And we're obviously going to try and get experts in for a lot of different things. It's just that what we're a little bit conscious of is that we're both obviously living in Mercia, and we don't necessarily know contacts from other areas.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave sort of more the legal type stuff till we've got more followers, more questions, so that we've got a little bit more pulling power, because we're not paying any of these guests, you know, they're coming on to give presentations and things. So once we've got more guests and more followers, we'll have a bit more power to say, come on, because there's 50,000 people watch this podcast, you know, it'd be a good idea for you to come on. So then we'll look at more lawyers, accountants and things from companies that cover the whole of Spain, rather than just one particular area, because particularly in those two areas, the legal side and the accountancy side, there can be quite a variance between regions. So having somebody purely from Mercia might not be appropriate to other areas.
We want to get someone on with visas as well, because we're getting a lot of emails now, so that's a lot. Everyone's saying visa.
Yeah,
so.
and we haven't had to do that, you know.
Very lucky.
Does it? Because you're an Irish passport. But for me, you know, I was pre-Brexit, so
Yeah.
We didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And we don't want to give you bad advice, but we're trying to find somebody that can give you an answer irrespective of your nationality and your location, so somebody that can help you, across Spain rather than just be Immersive specific.
Yeah. So on the back of that, make sure that you follow our podcast. Make sure you share it with a friend, especially if you know someone who's thinking about moving to Spain or someone who's just moved to Spain. This is great advice for them. From the feedback we've already gotten, everyone says it's been very helpful. So it's just taking that expert advice or all that information that floats around and then just putting it into the context of our experience. So I think that's important. It's an important side of things. So yeah, do follow us on wherever you listen to the podcast, whether that be YouTube or Amazon or Spotify. Follow us please, because it really helps if we can say we've got thousands of followers. Listen to us, share the episode. We obviously name every episode. So if there's one particular episode that you think someone might be interested in, like the one that we did previously with our children, interviewing them about their experiences in Spain, for example, you might know someone who's interested in that episode. So feel free to share it with someone that you know.
Yeah, great, honestly. And it's not for financial reward. We don't get paid for anything. It's just that when you've got more followers, you become higher up in the sort of the spectrum page, not spectrum, Spotify pages, etc. and then and again, it means that we've got a little bit more way to try and attract more people onto the show. And the more the more experts we can get on, the better make it for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you very much, everyone who has listened to the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, please tell your friends, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you, bye.